Hello, good morning from Bali, good evening, the States, and wow, welcome to the late night Europe. Thank you for joining me. So, many of you are already aware that this is a Q&A on Latex, and all the questions are coming from Instagram. I'm on 2 channels right now, and so if you want to drop a question, you can drop it into the chat in the Q&A on Instagram. Otherwise, I'm going to be answering a lot of questions from the stuff that you've dropped over the last 24 hours. So thank you very much. So I guess let's just start this by saying that I generally like to tackle some harder topics when it comes to these Q&As that I do every month. But it's been a shitty year. So let's end it on something a little bit lighter and lovelier. But first, since we are on the topic of latex, I'm going to make sure that my latex, which I'm wearing from Lex Clothing, is nicely shined for this. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for all of your wondrous questions. As always, they were very entertaining, and it's too sad that I don't have you here to help me shine, but you know, my hands are good enough for today. So I'm gonna get to the questions now. There were a lot of incredible ones. Let's start with something from the wondrous Mistress Blunt. Does the confinement of latex make you feel powerful? All right, so I recently wrote an article for Erica Lust on latex. It's basically a love letter to latex. And I did mention the sensation of how especially well-formed and fitted latex can hold you. And I generally like the sensation, and it definitely can feel confined, and some people even say suffocating. And I think that is reacted to differently by different people. But for me, does it make me feel powerful? It makes me feel held. It makes me feel, supported and comforted and extremely comfortable for whatever reason. And so does that make me feel powerful? That makes me feel more comfortable, and therefore able to step into the role that I need to at whatever moment in time. I do wear it mostly when I'm with the kink community or when I'm playing, and so yeah. That requires a certain sense of jumping into the power space, and so I would say it definitely helps, but maybe not in a directly correlated reason, but rather in a reason of making me feel supported. Thanks for that wonderful question, Mr. Sloan. You always do wonderfully, and we're gonna continue with the wondrous mind of Mistress Blunt. Are all latex fetishists masochists? A part of me really believes that. I actually can be a rope bottom as well as a primal bottom, even though I predominantly play from a top space, especially in my relationships. However, I understand that that's a facet of me, and I understand that I enjoy the difficulty and the challenge that latex is. And so I can definitely see that aspect of how we may need to be a little bit more familiar with the masochistic bent. But I would love to hear what other latex lovers think about that, because it's not an easy experience, but the payoff is really worth it for me. But do you have to be a masochist for that to be established? I'm not sure. Yeah, so that's a great question, and I kind of tend to agree, but I would like to hear the opinions of others as well. All right, so all right, what would happen if you were wearing latex for 24 hours straight, or if others are wearing latex for 24 hours straight. So all the questions today are about latex, everybody. If you want to drop something into the chat, do so in the right way. Figure it out. I'm not entertaining your stuff that you're just dropping into the random chat. So what would happen if we're wearing latex for 24 hours straight? I have worn it at the longest for maybe 12 hours. Yeah, which, as long as I'm distracted by the gloriousness of the community and the things that are around me, I haven't even thought about it or let it be even an issue. It depends on the environment that I'm in, whether my skin is going to react to the lube poorly or not. But usually in a drier environment, I can be okay for longer periods of time. 24 hours, you'd have to I have fallen asleep in latex before, but I don't think that's an average experience, and I wouldn't recommend it because your skin isn't breathing in the normal way if it is exposed or wearing something breathable like cotton. So I would say that it can really irritate your skin, and I would not advise it because it might end up in rashes and general discomfort. All right, so have you ever worn latex before? That's an interesting question. All right. Oh, I like this one. From Sub Robert, thank you. How does it feel when you put latex on? So I'm sure it feels different for everybody. For me, so many emotions. Even getting into this today, because there's the zip up the back, it was just like anger. Because I didn't have somebody here to help me. They had already left. And yeah, and so it's like frustration and understanding that there's a result. It's like it's a conversation with oneself to even get it on. But then the sensation of, there's a lot of attention that needs to happen so that things are getting put in the place that you want it to end up, and that things are not going to tear on you. And so there's a lot of focus. So I think for me, it's a real emotional exercise. And then once I've kind of settled into that, there's a lot of things where then I can start to step into the sensation. So the sensation of where it's tighter on me, the sensation of where it starts to get like smoother on me, the sensation of where it just holds me perfectly. And then there's also the smells and it's a very sensorial experience, but I think it would really depend on who it is that's responding, and I think also it's mostly an emotional battle, which I enjoy. So yes. Let's see. Okay. Something from Samiva. Do you prefer your slaves to also be dressed in latex? It depends. Sometimes I'm really in the mood to be coordinated. I think I'm in that mood at the moment for whatever reasons. And so that can be like very in sync outfits, whether it's like the whole medical gear and the patient, or whether it can be even just like a color scheme. But visually, I very much enjoy that. Whether it's in private or whether it's going out. However, I think it would really depend, because some people are comfortable in latex and some people are really uncomfortable. So it would be whether I want people to feel uncomfortable or whether I want them to be able to just like embody it and step into that space between us, and that I am instigating, as opposed to being in their head about how uncomfortable they are. So it depends. But visually, at the moment, I think I'm quite interested in color combinations and and how that sparks joy in my mind. So that was a very sweet question. Thank you for that. How do you get in? So it depends on the piece. It's a process. So I've already touched on the process a little bit, but essentially there carefully. And probably the hardest thing to get into, that we're not talking like total encasement, but still close, is probably a cat suit. And it's kind of like putting on stockings and making sure that things are even. So it's about rolling and about evening out the distribution when you're letting it out and making sure it's balanced on both sides of the body. Sometimes it's good to have another person on hand. But before all of that, you also want to make sure that, at least I always lube up my skin. Some people lube up the piece itself, but I find that it's actually easier for me if I lube up the areas that it's going to catch. So whether that's on the calf, or whether that's on the knee or the elbows or the shoulders especially. I've pulled my shoulder many times trying to put on latex before that trick happened. And you have to have a lot of patience. So yeah, start small, start with like maybe just like lingerie pieces and then slowly work your way up. Or, you know, you can jump in, but you probably have to practice a lot of patience, maybe have somebody around to tell you what things are going to work for you or not, in terms of don't use any oils, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, it's a huge process. So, is it hot? So if you mean heat hot, it's actually quite interesting in that it marries the temperature of the environment around you. So if it's very cold out, you'll be cold. If it's quite hot out, you will likely be melting. So, but if we're talking sexy, that's really up to you, Michael Wing. It's your decision about your perception. Okay. Oh, I like this. Do I like men in latex? Definitely. Definitely. There are some incredible people who I'm following now on Instagram. Instagram has been a dream to find men in latex because it doesn't happen enough, in my opinion. And it can veer on the really fashion side, or it can veer on the heavy fetish side, and I have a space in my heart for it all. To the point where you don't even understand what the body underneath is looking like anymore. So yeah, I have a lot of favorite loves who I follow. Go hunt through my list to find them. They're wondrous, and they're everywhere, which is fabulous. I'm following people from Europe, from Australia, from the US. I love it in my life, and I love having a pet who looks really good in latex, who I can bring around with me and coordinate and show off. It's like an accessory, the best kind. Oh, this is good. What is it like living in latex in Bali? Well, it gets quite sweaty. It gets very sweaty. I never used to think that I sweat very much in latex, but that's because I used to wear it in like environments that were dry climates, and normally when I'm only traveling. But ever since lockdown and I've been stuck in Bali, I've been wearing it here, and I've learned that I definitely do sweat in latex. So I make sure I have like a towel under me if I'm going to be like seated for a very long period of time in a cat suit. And I've just like mentally prepared myself, so I will have air conditioning running, this kind of thing. In terms of storage, I keep everything in a very dark, cool room, in a very particular place in the house that doesn't get any sunlight in it or get any heat on it, as well as have a dehumidifier in it. So it's very high maintenance. And I write about this in my article as well, but I think latex for me, it's not only about how it looks and how it can like translate into how people react to it. That's wonderful. But I think also for me, it's that it takes so much care and attention, and it takes like such mental leaps for what's seemingly just like a piece of fabric or like clothing. And I like that challenge. In general, I kind of like that about life and people and aspects of things that I got to indulge in. And so it's very challenging, and I think that's why I'm drawn to it. You know, I have to look after it with such particular care, and so that's me. Oh, hello, Miss Kim. So Miss Kim is asking, what is my favorite company for latex lingerie? Okay, so I have a few. I would say for like if I'm really going the modern print and some very solid construction. I love what Atsuko Kudo does. It's really hard to not love her construction skills. And also she has some of these really beautiful like lace on latex prints that are quite unique. If I want to go like the heavier fetish old school style, I love Damask. The colors that they managed to panel and just the construction also of them is like speaking to an era that people are really getting away from. And then if I want to talk about like easier to wear everyday latex lingerie, I really, what are they called? What are they called? They're from the UK. I will write it. I will write it to you. But they also do like very simple pieces. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'll run upstairs and have a look and let you know later. But yeah, it's a UK company that does some really simple silhouettes. And I will let you know later. But yeah, so I would say that those are maybe the three directions that I tend to go in. Of course, you can pick up some basic pieces that are really easy to slip on, but in terms of construction, they are definitely my favorite. So yeah. Okay, so that was a lovely question from Miss Kim. Okay. How many latex pieces do I own? I don't know. So just to go back to what Miss Kim was saying, because she's writing the chat right now. Siren or House of Harlot? No, it's not those. House of Harlot is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's not. It's a more contemporary, younger brand than those. I'll find out for you. I'm so sorry. How many latex pieces do I own? I have no idea. Right now they take up half my walk-in wardrobe, and that's just my Bali collection, which is about like 2-3 meters of wall. But I have like stuff in Europe and in the rest of Asia in different lockers and hotels and apartments as well. So, so it's been a hard year being separated from all of my gear and my latex. But you know, the things have happened that have made it difficult too, obviously. But the little joys that it can bring, it's yeah, I've missed those little joys that are important for us to have. So how many pieces do I own? Never enough. It's my biggest indulgence. I was just talking the other day with a very sweet friend of mine, and I was saying how I can be very rational about many things in my life, including my tea collection, which yeah, is maybe my second most biggest indulgence. But in terms of, I don't know how to stop when it comes to latex, and it's not like I wear each piece very much. In fact, this is the first time that I'm wearing this piece, which was bought to me by Samiva a little while ago, to go with the latex chaps from Vex Clothing. Fabulous. But that I've only worn once too. But I don't know, it's kind of like art in a way. Maybe that's how I'm treating it more than anything. So I'm not sure how many pieces I own, but let me have this indulgence, won't you? Let me have it. So what is my favorite latex color? Okay, so I would say that I love to see really bold primary colors. I love to see them. And I have a special space in my heart for like a mint green and like pastel. But in terms of like maintenance, it's like you have to be like careful like what it's touching, and I get so worried. And so, you know, I love to see those colors, and white even, but at the end of the day, black is just more straightforward for me, and it just turns out, you know, it turns out every time. So I would have to say just classically black. However, I do have a special space in my heart for those colors. So if anybody feels like collecting some for me, feel free. What is my favorite latex outfit? So my favorite latex outfit, if we're just talking about like general classic shapes that are out there, there is still nothing that beats the catsuit with like a corset or a cinched kind of waist, for me, because I love the entire hold of it. Do I love a full headpiece and like full encasement? Yes. But in terms of if I need to play, and I want to utilize my hands and I want to be able to like walk out and about, it can be restrictive in a way that I don't particularly find easy to navigate. And so I would say that definitely the catsuit, the classic catsuit, is still going to be my go-to thing. And I only discovered that a few years in, actually, to my latex career. Surprisingly. Yeah, but that was the tipping point. When I tried on a catsuit was when I really understood, like, okay. I like the process, I like the sensation, I love the result, and now now I'm going to make this, you know, my number one thing that I'm not going to be too reasonable about. Ooh. Yeah. What else? What else? Entry-level latex piece recommendations. All right, it depends obviously what parts you want to cover or not. I would say that the easiest thing to go is a brief, you know, is to do like lingerie, briefs, just get that initial sensation, get familiar with the sweating, get familiar with the process of it getting onto you, walk around your house, sit, stand, move, do a little jog. It's not a straightforward process to exist in. And so, yeah, but that said, if you get a chance to be around somebody who can help you into a catsuit, like I just said, it's a totally different experience. So it's kind of nice, that trial of putting on a smaller piece and getting the sensation of it, but there's nothing that will compare to being fully encased or close to it. And that gives you a heightened experience. And then, and like for me, you might even enjoy that more. So I would say in a way, a latex brief and a latex catsuit are almost entirely different experiences and or concepts to me. And so even if you rule out that smaller piece, I would just try that higher piece at some stage as well, because maybe it would trigger something differently in your mind. It's a different kind of experience. It's more like a self-bondage experience as opposed to only just a wearing experience and a visual experience also. So I would say that's it. But also obviously in terms of cost, because latex is not a cheap investment. Yeah, I would definitely say the less material, the less cost, because the material is a huge cost, and the construction of working with it, and you start to move on larger parts of the body. So yeah, so yes, let's see. Okay, so Samiva's trying to find that lingerie designer for me. So Samiva, if you have a look on my profile, look for the white one piece that I'm wearing at my shoot in Bali, and I would have tagged the designer. That's the designer that I mean. And type it into the chat, please. Thank you. All right. This is nice. So for the people who actually are into latex, this will make sense. So chlorinated latex or not. Chlorinated latex will end up giving you a different, how do I describe this to you? Like finish. Yeah. And actually it can be a lot easier to pull on, keep on. It's a very different sensation also. I would say that if you're starting out, it can actually be an interesting way to kind of enter into the headspace. I definitely have pieces, and I think that it's totally valid depending on what you're going for. If you're really into the sensation of things, obviously it's going to make a huge difference for you, maybe pro or against. But I definitely see it as in terms of utility, a good entry point, and in general, I don't have anything against it at all. Give me all the types. Give me all the types. Yeah. Okay, so just a couple more. Just a couple more. Ooh, from Pretty Epitome. This is a nice question. Loose or tight? Does it depend on the style? So for the longest time, I've been very much into the tight form-fitting latex. But as you can see, I'm starting to diversify a little bit. This is by Vex Clothing, who does some interesting silhouettes that kind of are both tight as form-fitting as well as looser, even in the same piece. And obviously there's a lot of dresses out there that also take those into account. William Wilde from the UK is also somebody that's more on the latex fashion front that also does some interesting construction when it comes to things that are both form-fitting and not in the same piece. I would say that I am starting to move into using latex in a very fashion kind of direction, which talks to that playing with the loose fit. But I do come from the fetish world where things are mostly form-fitted. So it would depend on, yes, the style, what I'm trying to achieve, whether it's more fashion forward or whether I really feel like being held that day, and or maybe the shock value of how a really tight piece can work. But yeah, so the diversity is kind of where I am at the moment. So all the questions today, Goddess Slave Boy, are about latex, which is right at the top of the screen, which you can see very clearly. So ask me questions about that, why don't you? Yeah, all right. So Mistress Odette also asked about the warm environment. Let's just bring that up. So I did answer it a little bit before, but I love Odette, so I'm going to make sure that I put her up there. Is it more difficult to maintain your collection in a warm environment? Yes. Yes, I worry about it. I really worry about it. But like I said, I keep it in a dark room, and that doesn't have any sun hitting any of the sides of it. And I try to keep it aired, but also like dehumidified. So I have a machine in that room for that. And then I'd never used to, better or worse, like powder the inside of my latex when I would store it, when I was in drier environments, but I'm religious about that now. Because I've had a little bit too many experiences where I see things starting to like stick even after washing it, in all the ways. Yeah, so I generally make sure that I obviously clean it very thoroughly. First I might as well go through my cleaning process with like a no oil-based washing detergent, if there's any washing detergent that oil-based, but like just as a point to make, no oil-based anything, yeah? So washing detergent, like just like the yellow, the green stuff, none of this organic stuff. Yeah, wash it inside out, get all of like the surfaces that might have been on sweat like gone. And then I'll wash it again, like, do I have it? Like with this beautiful blue liquid from Vivishine, and then I make sure that I shine it a bit, but then I also, how do you say? Yeah, I put like powder on the inside, and I store it that way in a dark bag also. So all of that on top of the dark room, on top of the dehumidifier, it's definitely more of a process here, but it's worth it. Thanks for the question, Odette. I hope you're well. I hope you and all your wondrous latexes are well. Okay. All right. This is interesting. Why do you think people, men in particular, find latex to be such a sexy thing for women to wear? Do you? Do you find it a sexy thing for women to wear? Why do I think men who find latex interesting and or sexy, why do I think they find it particularly of interest? Samiva, answer me. Write it in the chat. Why do you find it so sensual, sexy? But sorry, there's this person with a very large motorbike going by. But I would say that in my experience, I think the visual of it is quite a shock, and that the people who are around me tend to enjoy a bit of a shock. So this is just specific to the people around me, and that it's so form-fitting, and so it's like, it's that concept of just kind of out of reach, like the view of all the curves that are there, but yet they are just sort of hidden. It's kind of that, the mystique of it as well. I think that might be for the people around me. But in terms of how you might perceive it, I'm not sure. Why don't you share with me? I agree, Keys. Chlorinated latex is definitely much easier to handle, but some of the shapes that I love just are not going to come in it. And also there is something about the difficulty of the sensation that I tend to enjoy. Thank you to all the latex lovers that are joining me. I'm recognizing a lot of your names, and I love your work. So thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you in this chat. So yeah, who does my latex laundry? Would you like to? I have trained different people over the years, but the only person who I actually do continue to trust is Arya Lux, who you'll see in many of my photos, who is my sub-girl in many of my photos. And her attention to detail and her meticulousness and her care is even higher than mine, and so I trust her with everything. Others, not so much. So yes, if anybody would like to offer and you're living in Bali, please, 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 please let me know. Yeah. All right, so let me go for one more question, maybe two. Ooh, there's so many nice ones. Are you into men wearing latex? I already answered that. That was a yes, yes, yes. How do I feel? Answered that. What style do I like the most? I covered that too. Best latex brand, it really depends on what I feel like. There's so many different kinds of approaches. All right, so last question from one of my favorite latex people on Instagram, Teutonic. Do I like latex sissification? I am only just breaking the seal on this. Can you believe it? After all of these years, I'm only really starting to understand. And I recently found a brand in the UK, which I also forgot. So sad. I'm going to write all of these brands into the notes. But who makes this like incredible frill, like on all like the hoods and the collars, and like the most incredible frill on like these baby pinks, and I cannot wait to have it. And I cannot wait to have them just tottering around my house in this cute little like baby pink latex frill outfit. It's yeah, and so I'm only just emerging on this, but it's gonna be good. I get the feeling it's gonna be good. I've already done this thing where I tend to, the people who are obviously more my size, dress them up in my clothes that coordinate with mine, and I really enjoy sissification in that way. I kind of turn them into like a doll of myself. Yeah. But in terms of, in another way, in terms of like maybe the classic kind of way, I'm stepping into that, and I cannot wait. So thank you for that wonderful question. To end off on everything, I love your work, Teutonic. And thank you everybody for joining me. This will obviously go up on my IG, what you call it? IGTV. And next month, which will be the new year, and hopefully will be an easier year for all of us, will be yet another topic. So think about what you would like for that. And thank you again for everything and for indulging my love of latex today, where I got to speak for 35 minutes about it. Thank you so much. Bye.